She stood at the front of class, her voice trembling as she read aloud. Every word carried the soft rhythm of her Nigerian accent. Some students snickered. One boy, loud enough for all to hear, said, "Maybe learn English before speaking it." Laughter filled the room, except for Ms. Carter, the teacher, who just sighed and said, "Let's move on." The girl's face burned red, but her eyes didn't drop. Hours later, during career day, Ms. Carter smiled wide when the next guest walked in, a tall black woman in a navy blue NASA uniform. The room went silent as the patches gleamed under the fluorescent light. "Good morning," she said confidently, her accent matching her daughter's perfectly. "I'm Dr. Amara Okafor, aerospace engineer at NASA." The same boy who'd laughed earlier sat frozen, his mouth slightly open. Dr. Okafor smiled, turning to her daughter. "Never change your voice. It's the sound of home and power." The class fell quiet, the laughter gone, replaced by awe. And that day, everyone learned the world doesn't measure intelligence by how you sound. It measures it by what you rise to become. The next week, things were different. The same students who once laughed now whispered her name with curiosity. "That's the NASA girl," they said. But she wasn't looking for fame. She just wanted respect. When Ms. Carter announced the science fair, that same boy, Ethan, rolled his eyes and said, "Bet she'll just build a spaceship with her mommy." She didn't respond. She just smiled and worked. For days, she stayed after class, piecing together wires, circuits, and solar panels. On the day of the fair, her project stood tall, a model satellite powered by clean energy. The judges leaned in, impressed. "Who taught you this?" one asked. She looked up proudly. "My mother and YouTube." Laughter rippled again, until the judges revealed the results. First place, a NASA internship invitation. And this time, when she walked past Ethan, he didn't laugh. He simply said, "You earned it." She smiled softly. "No, I built it." The crowd applauded, her accent clear and strong as ever. And the lesson echoed beyond that classroom. Never mock what you don't understand, because what you laugh at today might lead tomorrow. Months passed, and her name spread beyond the school. News outlets called her the young innovator with the NASA connection. But she didn't let the praise distract her. When the district invited her to speak at a student leadership conference, she almost said no, until she remembered that day in class. The laughter, the shame, and her mother's voice saying, "Never change your voice." So she walked on stage, her heart pounding as hundreds of faces turned toward her. In the front row sat Ms. Carter and Ethan. She began softly. "When I first came here, my accent made me feel small. But then I realized it's not the accent that's the problem. It's the way people listen." The crowd fell silent. Even Ms. Carter's eyes softened, guilt flickering across her face. After her speech, Ethan walked up and said, "You made me think. I was wrong." She nodded gently. That's how change starts. As the applause thundered through the hall, she finally smiled, not because they accepted her, but because she had taught them why they should. The world once mocked her voice, but now it listened. 2 years later, the girl who was once mocked for her accent stood at the gates of NASA itself. Now an intern, badge gleaming under the morning sun. As she walked to the corridors lined with engineers and scientists, she caught sight of someone familiar. Ms. Carter, older, quieter, standing among a group of visiting teachers. Their eyes met, and for a moment, neither spoke. Then Ms. Carter whispered, "You really made it." The girl smiled softly. "I didn't just make it, ma'am. I remembered who I was." Moments later, she was on stage beside her mother, presenting a prototype for a sustainable spacecraft panel. Her design. Applause erupted. Cameras flashed. And as she spoke, her accent rang to the auditorium. Clear, proud, powerful. No one laughed this time. Instead, they leaned in to listen. Afterward, Ms. Carter approached her mother, tears in her eyes. "I almost silenced her gift," she admitted. Dr. Okafor smiled gently. "You can't silence brilliance. It just waits for the right moment to speak." And as mother and daughter stood beneath the NASA emblem, the young girl whispered, "They mocked my voice, but now it echoes among the stars." Years passed. The little girl with the accent was now Dr. Amara Okafor, NASA's youngest project lead. Reporters crowded around her as she unveiled the first spacecraft built entirely from her sustainable design. But when she stepped to the podium, her voice trembled, not from fear, but from emotion. This is for every child who was told they didn't sound right, every dreamer who felt they didn't belong. The crowd erupted in applause. Among them sat Ethan, no longer the mocking boy, but now a science teacher, bringing her story to his students. He smiled proudly as her words echoed through the hall. You see, Amara continued, our voices are not flaws. They are fingerprints of where we come from. After the ceremony, a young girl approached her shyly, speaking with the same soft Nigerian rhythm. They make fun of me too, she whispered. Amara knelt down and said gently, then let them laugh, because one day they'll be quoting your voice. As the young girl hugged her, the camera panned up to the spacecraft lifting into the sky. Her voice carried in mission control, strong, confident, unstoppable. The world once mocked her accent, now it spoke her language. Years later, the world watched as the first launch of the Okafor, one spacecraft began, a historic mission designed by Dr. Amara Okafor herself. In the control room, her mother, now retired, stood proudly by her side. The countdown echoed. 3, 2, 1, and the rocket soared into the heavens, blazing a trail of light across the sky. Cheers erupted, but Amara's eyes filled with quiet tears. On the screen, the onboard computer responded to her command, not in a robotic tone, but in her mother's recorded voice saying, "Dream without apology." The entire room went silent. Then applause broke out like thunder. Reporters swarmed, calling her a symbol of resilience, representation, and brilliance. Later that night, standing under the stars, Amara whispered, "They once laughed at the sound of my voice, but today, that same voice commands the stars." Her mother smiled softly, and it will echo long after us. The camera panned upward, following the glowing arc of the Okafor 1, her name and accent etched into history. Because when the world tries to shame your roots, the greatest revenge is to make them reach for your sky. Hit that like button, subscribe for more stories that matter, and let's keep the conversation going.